Okay, I always get really neat ideas when someone sends me a video to something really epically stupid. And it's a video on, using light meters. I made a video in the past about using light meters, and the general premise is, and obviously so, that you don't need one. But that's for most people. As far as saving time, you see, inside your DSLR camera, if you've got a halfway decent one, even the crummy ones, like the dinkies, the 5000 and 3000 series, they have not only excellent metering, but they have excellent spot metering. But those are reflectance meters, which is important. But guess what? You can't use any meter in any camera for. Can't use it for flash photography. Can't use it for strobe work. And you can't use it for saving time. Someone sent me a video to a guy that people love his channel, and I know the reason why. He keeps shooting all these hot babage. He's always shooting hot babes, and he looks like Inspector Clouseau. Let me tell you why this video just made my blood boil. And just because you've got a lot of views because you're shooting hot babes, like pose for me, baby. It's like, oh great, I can see why people are watching this. The guy is showing you, how to shoot chicks. And anyway, the premise of this video is that he always uses his histogram, and he's using an incident light meter. Okay. Now, about 90% of light meters are incident. It means it only measures the light that's falling on something, whether that is ambient light or whether that is, flashlight from your speed light or from a studio strobe. Okay, and this comprises about 95% of light meters out there, including my old Minolta. Here's a light meter I've been using for ages. See, it only measures the light that is falling on to the photo sites underneath that clear plastic dome. Now, my light meter, and I'm going to make a bunch of videos about this next week. So I thought that there were a bunch of videos on light meters on YouTube. Turns out there really aren't any. I was like shocked. But a person sent me a link, and they wanted to know. They were thinking about getting a light meter. And it's like, this video doesn't make any sense, but this guy is really popular. And, I know why. He's shooting hot babes. That's understandable. This is my light meter. Not only is it an incident light meter, but it also measures reflectance. There's actually a little, a secondary photo sites that are in here for looking through. You can actually spot meter, just like you hit the spot meter on your camera. However, with your camera, you can only measure the incident. The reflectance off of whatever it is you're shooting at. And it certainly can't measure the reflectance from, a speed light or a studio strobe. Can't do that. Obviously, you can chimp on your pics, and you can sit there and bracket your shots. It's like, I don't know what the exposure is going to be. We got a high dynamic range here, so I'm going to bracket my shots and rip them off. Now, here's the thing that other people have mentioned, and this is true. This is where a light meter becomes really handy. And that is if you're going to paid gigs and weddings and you are sitting there pissing your time away, I mean literally, you are pissing your time away in the middle of the night going over all these shots, so you're just going to machine gun the exposure and I'm going to bracket it. I got a lot of dynamic range here. Ram, plus one, minus one. Plus what, you're taking 3 shots of everything, and you got to go through all of this, This is where this thing would pay for itself immediately. So obviously, if you're just shooting shots here or there for yourself, and you want to bracket the stuff, you don't need a light meter. But this guy's video, he's sitting there, about to shoot a model, and he's talking about she has Asian skin, and he says, well, her skin is not, very white, her skin is not very dark, and he's using, what basically everybody has, and what most light meters are, which is an incident light meter. That's understandable. So if you're going to measure the light on someone's skin, you stick the light meter underneath someone's chin, you take an incident reading off the studio strobe. Great. Well, that's going to tell you what's coming in, what your settings should be, but it isn't going to tell you what the reflectance of someone's skin is, whether they have jewelry on or they're wearing, bright, shiny, reflectant clothing, This guy, he's using an incident light meter, and he's complaining. The whole premise of his video is he's telling people not to buy a light meter because it doesn't measure reflectance. Well, you're right. This is an incident light meter, which is what he had in his hands. I mean, damn. People are listening to this guy? This is what they make this expensive meter for. This is my meter. It's a Sekonic L758. And it not only is an incident light meter, it is a reflectance also. You got a reflectance in your camera. It's measuring the reflected light off of whatever it is. You can spot meter it, you can center weight meter it, but it can't measure the studio strobe. You know, you can't. This also has a radio receiver, a transceiver in it for broadcasting to Pocket Wizard. So it actually has a built-in Pocket Wizard on the back of the unit. Takes a little Surefire battery, a little 123 battery, a little tiny barrel-shaped battery, and you can sit there and you can take incident light meter readings, or you can take reflectance light. So that video just made my blood boil, but I just wanted to make a video saying that next week I'm going to make a series of videos using my Sekonic. But the premise of this is that do you need a light meter? For most people the answer is no. Not only do you have to buy this light meter, you actually have to buy the calibration card, like the X-Rite card, which is $100. So you're looking at $650 for this, plus another $100 for the calibration card. Because each camera has its own profile as to how it sees and captures the light, and you'd have to program in a profile for each camera. I've got my camera, my Sekonic programmed in for my Fuji X-T1, my Nikon D500 now, and my Nikon D810, which are the only three cameras that I would do any serious work with. So you can program 3 cameras in. But, I mean, this is the pro tool. It's like, yeah, most light meters, and then it blew me away. It's like, how does this guy have, so many people, believe in him, and he makes an entire video saying, he's half right, but he's all wrong. How could you be half right and all wrong? Well, you can be. He's right saying he uses the histogram on the back of his camera to show you what it is he's doing as far as after the shot's been taken. But that's a waste of time. He's using an incident light meter. It's like, I understand you want a nice cheap little light meter, and he's using his PC Sync cord, I believe. And this is the old Minolta 4 that this is a 5. Actually, I owned the 4. I got rid of mine a couple of years ago. You can actually plug in a PC Sync cable, and you can sit there with your studio strobe, and you can measure the face, the incident light that is falling from the studio strobe or the speed light onto the model's face. But then that doesn't tell you the reflectance of someone's skin or what they're wearing, so you're going to have to adjust your... Yeah, that is what the hell this reflectance meter is built into my Sekonic for. You know, incident meter, reflectance. And you can switch it back and forth via the knob right over here on the right-hand side. So, the light meter is useless when you could use your histogram. You're just an average Joe and you go out there and bracket your shots. And you don't mind, screwing around in a light room in the middle of the night. But if you're going to be doing paid gigs and weddings and corporate photography, you got to have a light meter. You got to, because your camera, no matter how good, and your camera does have a really good spot meter in it, but that spot meter is not going to tell you a damn. It cannot measure at all. None of them can measure the spot meter. If I'm using a grid on some woman's face, for example, on a model shoot, where I'm just illuminating this side of her body, I don't care how good the light meter in my camera is, it's not going to meter the light, and it sure as hell is not going to meter the speed light or the studio strobe light that's falling on this sliver of her face. I'm going to have to hold up my Sekonic, I'm going to have to point it at the point of her face that's actually illuminated from the studio strobe, and then I'm going to trigger wirelessly via the built-in transmitter inside my Sekonic to my studio strobe to trip it and to get an accurate, it's measuring the reflectance through the Sekonic. Not the incident, but the reflectance. So that video made my blood boil. It's kind of like saying, if I don't recommend buying, I don't recommend buying, I don't know, a Volkswagen because it's absolutely no good on the racetrack, and therefore you should never own a car. It's like, well, no, you got the wrong damn car. If you got an incident light meter and you're complaining that it can't take reflectance readings, well, then you damn well buy a light meter that can do both. I mean, how do videos like this exist? I mean, what sort of sense does that make? Is it just me, or is the whole world gone stupid? That's just... I had to watch the video twice. It's like, this guy actually saying, yeah, he is. He's saying, you don't need a light meter. He even says it's BS. How is that possible for videos like that to exist? And I had no idea until I looked. And someone pointed me towards this video. They're like, this video doesn't make any sense. Is this right? I'm like, no, it's not right at all. There are no videos out there really to speak of. There's like a dozen. There's no videos out there on light meters. So there are reasons to own a light meter, and there are reasons not to own a light meter. There are a lot more reasons not to own a light meter for the average shooter. You know, if you want to go out there and take landscape shots, you don't need a light meter to bracket your shots and go home to figure out what the best exposure is for the dynamic range of your camera. Obviously so. However, what is really easy is using the reflectance light meter off my Sekonic or another light meter that has a reflectance reading, and you can sit there, if you know how to judge the specular, the diffuse, and the shadows of a landscape scene, for example. I could sit there and highlight my specular, my highlights, and my shadows, or my midtones, and I could hit the average button, and I've got it right there. So I'm not sitting there, you know, whacking off a bunch of shots on the camera, bracketing, so I'm going to bracket it all and pick the best one later. Well, you can do that, and it's no big deal. But if you're, you know, you're shooting professionally and you're shooting commercial and wedding, you're not pissing time away like that, because all you're doing, time is money, and if you're pissing a ton of time away, you know, blasting through a bunch of bracketed shots in the middle of the night, then, you know, you're going to want to commit suicide after a while. You want to get the shot the bestest, the fastest, with the fewest shots, okay? And there's no professional photographer on earth that's going to disagree with that statement, because it's not possible. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you later. Bye.